Medicaid for low-income individuals is now reassessing eligibility for health care coverage. For the last 3 years, people haven't had to re-enroll because of the pandemic, but now more Nebraskans than expected are being terminated, and experts say likely they shouldn't be. Our Bella Caracta is on your side with tips to ensure that you're setting yourself up to keep your Medicaid benefits.
Navigating health insurance coverage can be confusing. Thousands of people in Nebraska are now being asked to re-examine their benefits after 3 years of not having to.
It can be very difficult sometimes to make sure you stay certified.
Shamika Simpson has firsthand knowledge of the re-enrollment process for Medicaid, which can be done online.
They asked for tons of verifications. I spent an enormous amount of time trying to figure out what I was doing wrong on that website until I just gave up and sent everything through email.
She's one of the estimated 390,000 Nebraskans required to re-enroll in Medicaid benefits, an ongoing process that started in April and will extend into 2024. According to Nebraska Appleseed, a nonprofit working to assist people through the process, Nebraskans are being terminated from Medicaid at a significantly higher rate than expected. The Department of Health and Human Services in the state estimated that 10 to 20% of people will no longer qualify for Medicaid once re-enrollment began again. The actual termination rate so far is 31%. About 60,000 people have lost their Medicaid benefits. At that rate, more than 120,000 Nebraskans could lose their benefits when the state estimated it should only be between 40 to 80,000.
But our concern is that higher rate indicates that some of those people who have been terminated may still qualify for Medicaid, but have lost their coverage anyway.
Kelsey Ahrens with Nebraska Appleseed explained this higher rate may be because of missing information. Here are 3 tips for what Medicaid enrollees should do. 1. Update contact information with DHHS. Check mail and email for communications from them. And complete verification requests and renewal forms on time.
When we ensure access to healthcare coverage, Nebraskans are healthier and more financially secure.
Medicaid is important to help close those gaps for those who may not have the money that they need to get the medications they need.
On your side in Omaha, Bella Caracta, 6 News.
If you've been terminated from your coverage, experts tell us you can appeal the decision. Nebraska Appleseed also has assisters to help you find affordable coverage. Hundreds of people forced from their homes this Thanksgiving. We'll let you know why after the break. Plus,